Welcome to your deep dive. Today we are diving into the power of questions. And I don't mean like, what's the wifey password? We're talking about how the right questions, used strategically, can unlock hidden potential, clarify decision-making, maybe even rewrite our future.
It's true.
It's exciting stuff. So, expert speaker, when I was going through the sources for this deep dive, I felt like, I don't know, it was like I was given this new mental toolkit, super practical. What were your initial thoughts?
I was really struck by how all of the sources emphasize questions as, well, not just asking things, but as a catalyst for change. It's not just about getting an answer, right? It's using questions to really spark self-reflection, challenge those deeply held assumptions we have, and then ultimately, I think, drive action.
Yeah, it's like the sources are saying, stop just asking and start thinking. You know?
Yeah.
So let's dive into one of the first big ideas that stood out to me. It's this idea of criteria questions. It's like upgrading from basic questions to this, I don't know, superpower that helps us clarify our values and even like define our goals. Could you break this down a bit?
Yeah, so think of it this way. We often, as people, we ask these big kind of abstract questions. We ask things like, what is love? Or what is success?
Those big questions.
Right, but criteria questions, what they do is they encourage us to zoom in, to get laser focused on what truly matters to us as individuals, as people. So instead of asking, what is love? We can ask ourselves, what are the qualities and maybe even the non-negotiable qualities that I need in a partner, that I need in a relationship to feel loved and respected?
It's like trading in a vague wish list for something much more, well...
A blueprint.
Yes, a blueprint. That's a much better way to put it.
A blueprint, exactly. And what these sources suggest is that by really drilling down into our specific criteria for love or for success or for happiness, really, any of these big concepts, we move from uncertainty to a place of clarity, a place of purpose.
So it's like setting our internal GPS to guided by values, which I love.
I love that. I might steal that.
Feel free. But once we have those coordinates, then how do we actually navigate towards our desired destination?
Well, that's where these outcome questions come in. These questions help us to paint a vivid picture of our desired future. They ask us to really think about, what is it that I want? What will achieving this goal actually mean to me on a deeper level? And really, what am I truly committed to doing to make this happen, make it a reality?
It's that classic trio, your why, your what, and your how. And this is where it gets really interesting to me. The sources then introduce this whole other concept, this idea of acting as if, which almost feels like, stepping into an alternate reality in a way.
It does.
What do you think about that?
Absolutely. One source actually used the example of, if you struggle with confidence, instead of being stuck in that cycle of self-doubt, ask yourself, how would I walk? How would I talk? How would I even breathe if I already had this unshakable confidence?
So it's like you're channeling your inner superhero.
Precisely. And here's the thing. The sources suggest that by embodying those behaviors, embodying that confidence, even if it feels weird at first, even if it feels strange, our brains start to rewire themselves and we start to experience genuine shifts in how we feel internally.
So we're not denying reality, but it's like we're using our imaginations to create a new one, maybe.
Yes.
I like that. So tell me, how does this acting as if actually work? Is there any sort of scientific basis behind this?
There's actually a surprising amount of research on this. Our brains are amazingly adaptable. So when we repeatedly act as if something is true, what we're doing is we're creating new neural pathways and strengthening existing ones. So our brain starts to associate those new behaviors with those positive feelings, with those positive outcomes, and it makes it easier over time to really embody those desired states.
So it's like our brains, they can't tell the difference between what's real and what we're vividly imagining.
Sometimes.
Okay, so we've got our brains primed for success, right? With this whole acting as if thing.
Yeah.
But the sources do not stop there. They introduce this whole idea of using pain and pleasure as, I don't know, levers for change, which I found so fascinating.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it really resonated with me, too, because it taps into this very primal thing. Like the sources suggest our brains, they're wired to seek out pleasure and to avoid, well, pain.
Of course. Makes sense.
So by consciously connecting with the potential pain of staying stuck.
Ooh, that's a scary thought.
Right. But then also connecting with the pleasure of actually achieving our goals.
I like that part better.
It is more fun, yeah. But doing both, we sort of tap into this powerful well of motivation.
It's like giving our willpower a turbo boost or something.
I like that.
So how do we actually apply this whole pain and pleasure principle to, our everyday lives. Got any good examples for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So let's say your big goal is to finally write that book. You've always dreamed of writing, but you're procrastinating. You can't seem to get started.
Relatable.
So start by asking yourself, what's it going to cost me emotionally, mentally, maybe even creatively if I keep putting this off, if I never actually write this book?
Okay.
And really sit with those feelings of maybe frustration, regret, maybe even sadness that come up.
Ooh, I don't like where this is going.
Yeah. It's not always fun, right? But it can be motivating. Now let's flip the script. Let's crank up that pleasure dial. Ask yourself, okay, how will I feel when I'm holding that finished book in my hands? What kind of sense of accomplishment, of pride will I experience? What new doors might open? What connections might I make by putting my story, my book, out into the world?
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Just imagining that feeling is enough to make me want to start writing, like right now.
Exactly. And that's exactly the point. By allowing yourself to really vividly experience both the pain of inaction and the exhilaration of actually achieving those goals, we create this internal push and pull that propels us forward.
It's like we're hacking our own, internal motivation system.
We are.
I love it.
It's powerful stuff.
But, speaking of internal struggles, what about those limiting beliefs? What about those voices in our heads that say, you're not good enough, or you'll never be able to do that?
Oh, I know those voices well.
Don't we all? But the sources, thankfully, they offer some pretty powerful strategies for, silencing those inner critics.
They do, yeah.
What were some of your favorites?
Well, the sources, they encourage us to actually put those beliefs on trial. Like we're in a courtroom.
Ooh, I love a good courtroom drama.
Right.
So how do we cross-examine those negative thoughts, those negative beliefs?
Well, it all starts with curiosity. Instead of just letting those beliefs run on autopilot in the background, hit pause and ask yourself, okay, where did this come from in the first place? What experiences, what influences really shaped this belief?
Okay.
And often what we'll find is these beliefs, they actually stem from maybe childhood experiences, maybe societal conditioning, sometimes just a few isolated incidents that we've blown way out of proportion.
So they're not based on, solid evidence then?
Often, no, they're not. They're built on kind of shaky foundations.
But once we've, identified the source of the belief, then what? What's our next move?
Well, that's when we challenge its validity. So we ask, is this actually true? Is this belief serving me in my life right now? What evidence is there that either supports it or contradicts it?
So gather the evidence, present your case to the jury.
Exactly. And now this is where it gets really, really interesting. Yeah, the sources talk about using this technique called conversational postulates.
Now I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these conversational postulates.
So think of them like these verbal cues, these little phrases that we can sprinkle into our conversations that kind of subtly shift the direction of the conversation and even influence the other person's thinking.
Ooh, so we're using language as a superpower.
Exactly.
I love it. Give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you are in a negotiation and you really want to create a more collaborative, more open atmosphere. So instead of, making demands, you could use phrases like, is it possible? Or I'm wondering if there's a way that we can both benefit from this. Just those small shifts in language, they open up a space of possibility and they invite the other person to participate in this search for a win-win solution.
So we're guiding the conversation towards a more positive outcome just with our words. Powerful stuff.
It is powerful. And the best part is this isn't just limited to business negotiations or anything. This is something we can use in our personal lives too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So say you're having a tough conversation with a friend or family member. Instead of going on the attack, instead of accusing or blaming, you could try phrases like, can you help me to understand where you're coming from?
Yeah.
Or I'm really curious about what led you to that conclusion.
I like that.
It really shows that you're trying to see their perspective.
And it encourages a more open, honest conversation, I'd imagine.
Exactly. You're demonstrating empathy, you're encouraging open communication, and that makes it way more likely that the other person's going to be receptive to what you have to say.
It's amazing how much our words can shape not just, what we think, but our interactions with other people too. But the sources also talk about something else that I found really, really fascinating. And that is the power of our own bodies to I don't know, influence our minds.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's easy to forget that, our physical state, how we're holding ourselves
Love our
physically.
posture, even.
Exactly. It plays a huge role in how we think and how we feel.
Yeah.
Like one source I was looking at, it actually suggested like a cape walk. Like imagine yourself, you're walking around, you've got this invisible cape billowing behind you.
I kind of love that.
Right.
It's a power move for sure.
It is.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of silly. But when we move with that kind of confidence, that purpose, we actually start to feel those emotions more strongly.
It's like our bodies are sending signals to our brain saying, like, hey,
Yeah.
we got this. We're in control.
Exactly.
So if we want to, like, feel more confident, we should stand up tall, take those deep breaths, walk like we own the place.
Exactly. And remember that Dickens pattern we were talking about using pain and pleasure as motivators?
Yeah.
Well, one source took it a step further and suggested like actually physically embodying those feelings. So close your eyes for a second and picture yourself. You're slumped over, shoulders are heavy with the weight of not achieving your goal, whatever it is, and really feel that. How does that feel in your body?
Ugh, not great.
No, not great at all. Okay, now change it up. Stand tall, chest open, a genuine smile on your face, like you just accomplished something amazing and you're feeling all the joy and fulfillment that comes with it.
Wow. I can feel the difference already, even just imagining it.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah, it really is. It's like we're tapping into this, like, hidden control panel for our minds.
We are.
And speaking of hidden potential, remember those criteria questions that we talked about?
Yeah.
Like way back at the beginning?
Yeah.
The sources suggest, going back to those criteria every so often and asking ourselves, are these still like really my priorities?
Yeah.
Have my values changed? Maybe shifted a little bit?
Yeah, because they do.
And if so, how can I make sure that my actions are lining up with who I am now?
Right.
It's like it's like a regular checkup.
Yeah.
It's like a regular checkup for our internal compass
I like that.
to make sure that we're still heading in the direction we want to go.
Because sometimes we're not.
True. Life is a journey and things change. Our values and our goals, they change right along with us.
They do.
Well, this has been incredible.
It has.
We went from asking those basic questions to like really using them as this powerful tool
Yeah.
for self-discovery, for motivation, really, for transformation, honestly.
Okay.
So much good stuff.
Yeah.
Criteria questions, outcome questions, this whole concept of acting as if,
Yeah. Which I love.
which is amazing, the pain and pleasure principle. A little painful at times, but we push through,
It's how we grow.
challenging those limiting beliefs, those conversational postulates. So interesting.
It's like magic almost.
And then even how our own bodies can influence our mind.
Powerful stuff.
It's a lot, but I feel like we've been handed like this master key
You have.
to unlock like a whole other level of self-awareness, of personal growth, all through the power of asking the right questions.
Who knew?
Right. So as we wrap up here, what's one question, one thing our listeners can take away with them to, to really start applying all this amazing information today?
Well, I would encourage everyone listening to ask themselves this. If I were to really fully embrace the power of questions, what is the very first question I would ask myself right now to create positive change in my life?
That's a great question. And on that note, this has been an incredible deep dive. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.